3 course. We are ready for lesson 84, which begins on page 163. More about participles, this time using the ablative absolute. Here's the rule for that. A noun or pronoun in the ablative with a participle in agreement, that is, a participle that shares its gender, number, and case, so it'll be ablative and then the same gender and number, may be used to explain an attendant circumstance of the main action, such as time, condition, cause, and concession. So, here's an example. Caesar Germanis victis laetus erit. So, Caesar will be glad when he conquers the Germans. Literally, the Germans having been conquered. So there's the Germans with that perfect participle. The Germans having been conquered, Caesar will be glad. So you can see that could be, you could take that as time, when the Germans have been conquered, or you could take it as cause, because the Germans have been conquered, Caesar will be glad, and so forth. So condition, so the same sentence may be translated, Caesar will be glad if he conquers the Germans, right? Or, again, as cause, Caesar will be glad because the Germans have been conquered. Or concession, although the Germans have been conquered, Caesar will be glad. Okay, so note on page 164, the literal translation of the ablative absolute is the Germans having been conquered. And the idea of time, condition, cause, and concession will only appear from the wider context. It is plain that the absolute may take the place of a clause that has the exact translation, and it must be determined by its connection. So, the rule, the grammatical rule for the ablative absolute is you put something in the ablative absolute that has no other grammatical connection to the main sentence. So the main sentence is, Caesar will be glad. That has no grammatical connection to the Germans having been conquered. Likewise, we might say, since it was cloudy, the man put on his jacket. Okay, the man put on his jacket is the sentence. That has no connection to the grammatical connection to the fact that it's cloudy. It has a thought connection, of course, but it has no grammatical connection. The clouds and the sky being cloudy, that doesn't serve as the object or the indirect object or direct object or possessive of anything in the main sentence. So these ablative absolutes show up all the time in Latin to deal with these circumstances that don't have a direct grammatical connection to the rest of the sentence. So the meaning of the absolute. The ablative absolute is well, that's what I just said, grammatically independent of the rest of the sentence. Hence, it is absolute or unconnected. The noun or pronoun used in this construction must be a different one from the subject of the main sentence. If the subject of the main sentence is also used in the minor clause, the ablative absolute cannot be used. So, when the Germans have been conquered, they went home, so the Germans are the subject of the main sentence. That would have to be Germani victi domum redierunt. That has to be in the nominative. The conquered Germans, finally went home. Okay, vocabulary. Bestia is an animal or a beast. Quotidianus is daily. De facis is tired. Facile is easily, and facilius is more easily. Impero, a noun of the first conjugation, a verb of the first conjugation, means to command or order, and it takes the dative case as its object. So I commanded to him to do something. That's how they think of that in Latin. Intelligo means I understand or appreciate. Interficio of the third declension with an I stem is kill. Laboro is I work or suffer or be ill. It's a first conjugation. Latine is an adverb in Latin. Mendax is untruthful or lying, an adjective. Mundo of the first conjugation, I clean up. Noctu, adverb at night. Obses is a hostage. Obsigno is I seal. Pensum is a task or a lesson, an exercise. Principium, the beginning. Studium, study or zeal for something. Tabellarius is a postman, a messenger. All right, work out your sentences and then restart the video for the corrections. Principiis cognitis multo facilius extrema intelligemus. Principiis cognitis multo facilius extrema intelligemus. So there's the ablative absolute at the beginning. Principiis cognitis. With the beginnings, with the principles having been understood, we shall understand the last bits much more easily. Okay, so what's the flavor of the ablative absolute there? Well, once the principles, once the beginnings are understood, or since the principles, are understood. Probably not although the first things are understood, we shall understand the last things much more easily. There's obviously a causal connection there. 2. Iam epistula obsignata noctu tabellarius noster venit. Iam epistula obsignata noctu tabellarius noster venit. So the main sentence, the verb is venit, and the subject is tabellarius. So our messenger went by night, iam epistula obsignata. Now that the epistle has been sealed. Now that the epistle has been sealed, our tabellarius goes by night. 3. Puellae pueris laborantibus facile pensa faciebant. Puellae pueris laborantibus facile pensa faciebant. Well, our main sentence is the girls were doing or performed the exercises, right? Puellae pensa faciebant. The girls performed the exercises easily. And now what do we do with pueris laborantibus? While the boys were working. There you go. While the boys were working. So it's ablative absolute. Here we can say it probably has a sense of time, while the boys were working. And 4. Bestiis interfectis agricolae periculum non timuerent. Bestiis interfectis agricolae periculum non timuerent. So again, our ablative absolute is easy to spot at the beginning of the sentence. With the beast killed, the farmers were not afraid of the danger. With the beast killed, the farmers were not afraid of the danger. Okay. So more next time in Lesson 85 on the ablative absolute. But for now, you just need to develop the eyes for it, because it won't always be set off with commas like it was in today's easy lesson. But those ablative absolutes will just show up all the time. So when you see an ablative participle, that's just one of the things on your plate. Is that an ablative absolute? And we see how that fits together. But again, more on that in Lesson 85.